Good evening, car audio enthusiast. I'm addressing this video to my very heavily budget-minded car audio enthusiast fans out there who are either wanting to make a lot of noise or make noise that sounds really good or something in the middle. Okay, SPL, SQ, SQL. But at the same time, they want to do it very budget friendly. Uh, that's tricky. See, here's the thing. You can make a lot of noise on a budget. You can make really good sounding noise on a budget, but doing both is hard on a fairly high budget. But there are some secrets to help you accomplish this goal. The first thing you have to understand is about 90% of amplifiers are basically the same. So whether you've got a Class D, as long as we're comparing Class D to Class D, okay? It doesn't really matter. You could take a sample from Marconi and Morel and Rockford Fosgate and Memphis and JL Audio and Recoil Audio and Scar and pick a handful more random companies. You could take a random sample of all these guys and the same power range. And as long as you DSP'd them and tuned the vehicle the same, they would all sound basically the same. All right. That the part you're trying to get for spending the more money is that last 10%. It's always that last 10%. When it comes to sound quality, you can get 90% of the way there with just the tune and the installation. Installing it right, tuning it right, setting it up right, picking the right bits, the right items with the right specs will get you 90% of the way there. That last 10% is going to cost you several times more money to get to. Okay. Now, having said that, we're working within that 90% here. The first thing you want to do when you're buying an amplifier and you're wanting to accomplish sound quality, hell, if you're wanting to accomplish loud, you know what you're going to need for power. Say you've got two subs that are 1,000 watt RMS each. You're wanting to put somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,000 watts on that combo RMS, right? So logic would tell you to go to a relatively inexpensive company and buy a 2,000 watt RMS amplifier and put that on your subs. That's what logic would tell you. However, that's not how you do it. The proper way to do that will be to go to that same company or one that's even less expensive and buy an amplifier that does 2 or 3 times that much power RMS for about the same amount of money or maybe a little more, and then run that with the gain turn way down, let it produce 2,000 watts RMS, and basically never have to work hard. The key thing is when you take an amplifier that's meant to do this and you ask it to do this, you're going to get a lot cleaner power. You're not going to be anywhere close to clipping it at any point in time. You're not going to be anywhere close to maxing out what it's capable of. You're not going to be driving it hot and making it have to work hard. It's going to be way more efficient. So more of the power you're putting in is going to get turned into sound. You're also going to be leaving room for those dynamic hits. All right. If you're working with this much amplifier, there's no room for dynamic power. It's giving you everything it's got, Captain. If you've got this much more room, whenever those dynamic hits come, it's still way out there in clean land. This thing's not going to have hardly any THD. It's not going to get hot. It's going to last longer. You're going to have more sub control, more actual motor control in the amplifier, uh, less heat, less power loss, more efficiency. Everything about it is going to be better. So you run your subs at 2 ohms or 4 ohms or whatever, enough to bring that power down to where it's outputting what you need for those subs. Match that setup up, and that amp will last you for years. Even if it's a tar amps or a whatever, just a generic balls out power amplifier. If you run it at lower power, get it down to where it's more efficient, you're going to get a much cleaner output, and the amp's going to last a lot longer. It's not going to go into protect. It's not going to be clipping. It's not going to, all those bad things go away. So the first tip is buy more power than you need, and then use the power that you need from that amplifier. No matter what the specs are on the amplifier, if it's turned way down to the point to where it's barely working to do the job that you need, it's not going to be getting anywhere close to its limits. And everything is going to be better. It's going to sound better. It's going to last longer, run cooler, all that stuff. The second tip, before you make that purchase on those amplifiers, understanding that you need to double up the power. And this goes for mids and highs too, not just subs. Those 4-channel amps, double the power and then roll them back. One of my amplifiers on my system, the gain is just barely cracked. It's almost turned all the way down. I mean, it's just the slightest, tiniest movement to get where it needs to be. You don't need to push all the way to just before clipping. You just don't need to do that. So the second thing is setting up the equipment right, getting your install right, getting sound deadening in your doors, at least the bare minimum around the drivers and on big flat panels, and anything that rattles and clanks, find it, put something on it to make it not make noise. It don't matter if you're using masking tape. It don't matter. Whatever you have to put on the thing to keep it from clickety clacking and jingling jangling around is going to be a world of good for your overall sound when you get done. Putting a little bit of deadener on the big flat panels of your doors, the metal panels, a little bit on even some plastic that's big and flat and rattly, fixing the little jingly bits, doing the preparation, huge. Make sure that your ground is super solid when your amplifier power, when your power and ground. When you hook that up, if you think your ground might not be 100%, make it 200%. Look at it and go, that's perfect. Do it again. Do it better than that. Take it, grind down into that metal and get all that paint off there. Make sure that it's going into a thick, chunky piece of metal. Make sure your ground is super good. Bad grounds kill more amplifiers than about anything else. There's a lot of amplifiers, as soon as you hook them up, they will literally pop if the ground's crap. No dice. It's bad stuff. Make sure you've got a good solid ground on a good beefy piece of metal that has a nice beefy metal path all the way back to the alternator. Okay. Make sure you're terminating your wires good. You're insulating them well. You don't want wires to short circuit. Take your time making sure you've deadened, got good fitment on your speakers, your grounds are good, your wires are solid and well insulated and organized and labeled or different colors so that you can keep up with what goes where. Doing these things, keeping that signal path clean and all that, doing these things are going to be far more important for your overall sound quality than buying this boutique amplifier. And I'm not kidding. You could take the worst, cheapest audio equipment out there, the cheapest thing you can find, and give it to a good technician that does a good, clean, awesome install, and it will blow your mind how good it sounds. On the same note, you can go buy the very best of everything and give it to somebody who does not know what they're doing, and it will sound like complete garbage. The install is key. Buy more power than you need, do everything clean, make sure you take your time and think things through as you're going. Don't jump in there and throw it together and say, I'll fix it later, or this is temporary, because temporary is always permanent. Do it right the first time. Take pride in what you do. Take pride in every wire that you run. Assume that everyone's going to see everything that you did, that you're going to hide. Assume they're all going to see it. If somebody takes that carpet and pulls it back in those panels, you want it to look perfect underneath there, even if no one ever sees it. If you take the time to make it look awesome, you'll catch every single mistake that you would have missed if you had hurried. It's going to be okay. Take your time, do it right. Take pride in what you do. Guys, peace out.